Somewhere right now, there is a room that no human being has entered in over 2,000 years. Not a cave, not a ruin, a tomb, sealed, intact, and it was found directly beneath the most famous facade in the ancient world. A building you have almost certainly seen before, even if you didn't know its name. Archaeologists weren't even looking for it. They were scanning the ground with radar when something impossible showed up on their screens. A hollow, a chamber, a burial site that hadn't been touched since before the Roman Empire reached its peak. Inside, 12 human skeletons, ancient artifacts, and one object, a chalice, so eerily similar to what Hollywood imagined the Holy Grail would look like that researchers actually had to stop and process the moment. Today we go inside the discovery that archaeologists are calling one of the most significant finds in Petra's modern history. And we ask the question nobody can fully answer yet. What else is hiding beneath the Rose City? Before we get into the tomb itself, you need to understand something about Petra that most people, even history fans, get completely wrong. We tend to think of ancient wonders as discovered. Like we found them, we studied them, we know what they are. Done? Petra is not done. Despite being one of the most visited archaeological sites on the planet, with hundreds of thousands of tourists walking through it every single year, only 15% of Petra has ever been excavated. 15%. That means 85% of an entire ancient city. A city that was once home to tens of thousands of people. A city that controlled some of the most valuable trade routes in the ancient world is still underground, still sealed, still waiting. And here's the thing that makes this even more complicated. The people who built Petra, the Nabataeans, were frankly brilliant engineers, merchants, astronomers possibly. They built a city in the middle of a desert and made it thrive for centuries. But they left almost no written records that we've been able to fully decode. We know what they built. We're still figuring out why and for whom. Petra sat at the crossroads of civilizations. Goods moving from Arabia to Egypt, from India to Rome, frankincense, myrrh, spices, silk. All of it passed through here. The Nabataeans taxed it, they profited enormously, and they funneled that wealth into one of the most architecturally sophisticated cities the ancient world had ever seen. So when a sealed tomb appears directly beneath their most iconic structure, that's not just an archaeological find. That is a message from the past, one we're only just beginning to read. The discovery didn't start with a shovel, it started with a signal. Archaeologists working at the Treasury, known in Arabic as Al-Khazneh, meaning the chest, were conducting a non-invasive survey using ground-penetrating radar, or GPR. Think of it like an MRI for the Earth. You roll a device across the ground, it sends radar pulses downward, and the reflections tell you what's underneath. Rock, soil, hollow space, structure. They had done this kind of survey before at Petra, but this time the data showed something unexpected. A void beneath the surface, just in front of the Treasury's lower level, an empty space where there shouldn't be one. In archaeology, voids are either nothing, a natural crack in the rock, or they're everything. The team began careful, methodical excavation, and as the layers came away, it became clear this was not a crack in the rock. This was a burial chamber, deliberately constructed, deliberately sealed, and almost miraculously untouched, in a site where an estimated 90% of all accessible tombs had been raided by looters over the millennia. This one had survived completely intact. That alone is extraordinary. What was inside made it historic. The chamber contained 12 human skeletons, carefully laid out in a way that suggests deliberate ceremonial burial. Not just bodies. People who were honored in death, arranged with intention. Now, why does that matter? Because the way a culture buries its dead tells you almost everything about how they understood life, status, belief, family, the afterlife. And because these remains are 2,000 years old and undisturbed, scientists now have something extraordinarily rare, a pristine biological record. Researchers can extract DNA, they can analyze bone density and composition to determine diet, health, and disease. They can study isotopes to understand where these people came from, whether they were born in Petra or traveled here from somewhere else. They can potentially determine age, sex, and social status from skeletal markers. These 12 individuals could answer questions about the Nabataean population that no amount of stone carving ever could. Who were they? Were they royalty, priests, merchants, a family? We don't know yet, but for the first time, we have the biological evidence to find out. Alongside the remains, excavators recovered a collection of artifacts, objects made of bronze, iron, and ceramic, items placed in the tomb with intention, offerings, possibly, tools for the afterlife, symbols of status or profession. Each one is now being meticulously cataloged and analyzed. And then there was the chalice, a ceramic vessel, a goblet-style chalice, pulled from the burial chamber and immediately noted for its striking similarity to depictions of the Holy Grail in popular culture. Researchers were quick to clarify, this is not, to anyone's knowledge, a religiously significant artifact in that specific sense. It's a burial vessel, likely used in ritual. But in terms of visual impact, when the lead archaeologist first photographed it against the red sandstone, members of the team apparently noted the resemblance themselves. Sometimes archaeology is stranger than fiction. Here's where this discovery becomes part of something even larger. The Nabataeans built Petra beginning around the 4th century BCE. At its peak, roughly 100 BCE to 100 CE, it was home to an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 people. And the engineering they achieved was, by any reasonable measure, centuries ahead of its time, in the middle of a desert, in a place that receives almost no annual rainfall. The Nabataeans built a fully functional water management system, channels carved into cliff faces, underground cisterns, ceramic pipes, and seasonal flood diversion systems that could supply an entire city. Some of those channels still trace the canyon walls today. They weren't surviving in the desert. They were engineering around it. There's also growing archaeological evidence suggesting that Petra's major structures, including the Treasury, may have been deliberately aligned with astronomical events. Certain facades appear to frame the rising sun on specific days of the year, potentially tied to the Nabataean calendar or religious observances. We still can't say definitively, because we still don't fully understand Nabataean religious practice, their gods, their rituals, the specific beliefs that drove them to carve entire temples out of living rock, which is exactly why this tomb is so significant. Religious objects, burial arrangements. The choice to place this chamber directly beneath the Treasury, their most elaborate, most ornate, most symbolically loaded structure, all of it suggests a deep connection between this burial site and the spiritual or political heart of Nabataean civilization. Were these 12 individuals buried here because of their relationship to the Treasury? Were they its guardians, its builders, its patrons? And perhaps most intriguingly, if one sealed chamber survived beneath the Treasury, what else survived beneath the rest of Petra? Remember, 85%, still unexcavated. And in 2016, researchers using satellite imagery and drone photography identified a massive, previously unknown, monumental platform buried under the sands just south of the city center, larger than an Olympic swimming pool and possibly thousands of years old. New finds keep emerging, hidden structures, buried roads, collapsed chambers. Petra isn't a city we've understood. It's a city we're still meeting. Before I let you go, I want to sit with something for just a second. Somewhere in Petra right now, there are researchers in tents with laptops and sample bags running DNA analysis on 12 people who lived and died 2,000 years ago. People who had names, who had families, who woke up every morning in one of the most spectacular cities ever built by human hands. And we get to find out who they were. That's not just archaeology. That's time travel. That's connection across 2 millennia. And the fact that we're only 15% of the way through, honestly, I think that's the most exciting thing in science right now. Not Mars, not AI, Petra. If you want to keep going down this rabbit hole with me, subscribe. I'm covering the world's greatest unsolved archaeological mysteries, and there is a lot of road left on this one. New finds are coming out of Petra regularly, and I'll be covering every major one. Drop a comment below. I genuinely want to know. If you could excavate one section of Petra and find anything, what would you hope to uncover? A royal palace? A Nabataean library? More tombs? Tell me. I read every single one. The Rose City still has secrets. Let's find them together.